George was born on July 26, 1927. He lived a life full of kindness, service, and love. He grew up in West Virginia, where he developed a love for fishing. He left home around the age of 13 and joined the circus. He discovered that he loved traveling and exploring the world and had visited 48 states before the age of 20. He loved taking his son Jimmy on road trips to see where he had come from. At 17, he lied about his age to enlist in the Army during World War II, where he was a communications specialist and was in the 4th Armored Infantry. After the war, he was stationed in Germany. On New Year's Eve, he had the day off, and he didn't feel well, but he and a buddy decided they were going to go to Paris to bring in the new year, but without permission. The next day, his health deteriorated, and his buddy dropped him off at a military hospital, where he spent several weeks recovering from an infection. While he was there, Bob Hope was visiting and came and sat on his bed and visited with him a while. When he finally returned to his unit, his commanding officer called him in to discipline him. The officer said, "Sit down, Corporal." As soon as he sat down, the officer said, "Stand up, Private, you're dismissed." He later saw Bob Hope at the Ohio State Fair, and Grandpa reminded him of that time that he had visited him in the hospital in the war, and Bob took him in the side room and visited with him privately for several minutes.
After he was discharged from the Army, he joined the carnival, where he met Elaine Rao, who was a stunt cycle performer. They married and settled in Springfield, Ohio, where they had 3 children, Sherry, Janice, and Jimmy. He was a very dedicated worker and held many jobs, including elevator operator, mechanic, and security guard. He liked taking his kids to fairs and fishing. He had 5 grandchildren, Missy, Randy, Valerie, James, and Susie. Sherry always appreciated her dad, but never more than in the summers when we would visit and all go to Kings Island together. He would take Randy, Missy, and Valerie all over the park and ride endlessly, never getting tired, while John and Sherry got to spend the entire day kid-free. As kids, we didn't know what a wonderful this gift was to her. As parents, we now understand. He also loved taking us to his favorite fishing hole, which required us to walk over train tracks, over a train track bridge over a river. If you've ever seen Stand By Me, you can imagine that bridge. It was terrifying, but he was fearless. He walked it casually like he was strolling down a sidewalk. Meanwhile, the 2 of us were white-knuckled to his hands, holding our breath the entire way. He had 5 great-grandchildren, Balin, John Gabriel, Jonas, Jacob, and Ravi. Even in his 80s, he would swing them high into the air, scaring us to death. He would never say no to any games they wanted to play, and he would push them on the swing as long as they wanted. One day, well into his 80s, they were playing outside when one of the boys accidentally kicked the ball down the hill. Instead of coming to get one of us, he started down the side of the mountain into the woods before we could catch him. In the last few years, they would hit a balloon back and forth with such enthusiasm that the kids would tire out before he did. He was a wonderful father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. He is preceded in death by his wife Elaine, daughter Janice, and son-in-law Mike, and grandson James. Survivors include 2 children, Sherry Brumage Payne and husband John of Bimble, and James R. Brumage and wife Connie of Leesburg, Florida. 4 grandchildren, Missy Payne Sent, Valerie Payne Ross, Randy Brumage, and Susie Parker. Great-grandchildren, Balin and Jonas Sent, John Gabriel and Jacob Ross, and Ravi Brumage, among other loved ones and dear friends.